This is your daily Facts Matter update, and I'm your host, Roman from the Epoch Times. And now let's begin today's discussion by talking about Ms. Hillary Clinton, who has just issued an official response to John Durham's filing. Now, before we get into her actual statement, I just want to give you a brief recap of the allegations. In short, according to the special counsel John Durham, back in 2016, the Clinton campaign, alongside one of their lawyers as well as a sympathetic tech executive, they were spying on President Trump's internet traffic both before and after he was sworn into office as the President of the United States. And they were allegedly laundering this information over to the intelligence community as well as other media outlets in order to create the narrative that there was some kind of collusion going on behind the scenes between President Trump and the Trump campaign, as well as Russia, a Russian bank, and potentially the Russian government. Now, even though all these allegations have proven to be false, well, the narrative itself has stuck. There are still people in America who believe truly that Trump colluded with Russia. Regardless, though, those are the allegations in a nutshell. However, now we have an official response from Ms. Hillary Clinton. And to start with, just yesterday while she was speaking at the New York State Democratic Convention, she essentially attempted to brush off the allegations as a right-wing conspiracy. Take a listen.
And we can't get distracted, whether it's by the latest culture war nonsense or some new right-wing lie on Fox or Facebook. By the way, they've been coming after me again lately, in case you might have noticed. It's funny, the more trouble Trump gets into, the wilder the charges and conspiracy theories about me seem to get. Fox leads the charge with accusations against me, counting on their audience to fall for it again. And as an aside, they're getting awfully close to actual malice in their attacks. But as I said, don't get distracted.
Okay. So let's say we take her advice, and instead of getting distracted, we instead read the Durham filing for ourselves, and after doing so, we realize that some of the accusations, they cannot just be waved away as a Fox News conspiracy, because they are concrete and they are evidence-based. Well, have no fear, because Ms. Hillary Clinton, she posted a message on Twitter saying this, quote, "Trump and Fox are desperately spinning up a fake scandal to distract from his real ones. So it's a day that ends in Y. The more his misdeeds are exposed, the more they lie. For those interested in reality, here is a good debunking of their latest nonsense." And then below that statement is a link to a Vanity Fair article which is titled, "You Will Never Believe It, but Hillary Clinton did not in fact spy on Trump's White House." And then the subhead of that particular article says, quote, "In less breaking news, Donald Trump remains a moron." And so you can sort of see right away where the author of that totally neutral article stands. Regardless, though, I did go through and I read the entire Vanity Fair article, which essentially serves now as Hillary Clinton's response. And the main point that the author in that article makes, besides several times reiterating how dumb Fox News and President Trump actually are, the main point of that article is that according to the lawyers of the tech executive, they were intercepting data from the White House, but it was not during Trump's term in office. According to them, according to the lawyers that were representing the tech executive, they were instead analyzing the data that was coming from the executive office during Barack Obama's presidency. Here's specifically what the lawyers told New York Times that was then quoted in that Vanity Fair article. Quote, "What Trump and some news outlets are saying is wrong. The cybersecurity researchers were investigating malware in the White House, not spying on the Trump campaign. And to our knowledge, all of the data they used was non-private DNS data from before Trump took office." Now, there are a few points to unpack in their statement. First of all, the term spying is just semantics, because if these cybersecurity researchers were in the system looking for malware, well then they of course at the very same time had access to all the data. And so whether they actually went into that system in order to quote unquote spy, which is by the way not what John Durham was saying in his filing anyway, they appear to be spinning that part a little bit, but regardless, the effect is the same, because those researchers had access to all the data, and it appears that they took that information and gave it to the Clinton lawyer, who then took it over to the FBI. And then secondly, the second point is that in terms of who was the president during the time that the DNS data was being gathered, well, that is not exactly clear. And we will have to get clarification from John Durham when he presents more information to the court. Because for one, if you noticed, what the lawyers actually said was that, quote, "To our knowledge, all the data that they used was non-private DNS data from before Trump took office." And so if you notice, they did not state it as a definitive fact. They just said that it's according to their knowledge. And then furthermore, let's look at what John Durham's filing actually said in this particular respect. Quote, "The government's evidence at trial will also establish that among the internet data that Tech Executive One and his associates exploited was DNS internet traffic pertaining to a particular healthcare provider, Trump Tower, Donald Trump's Central Park West apartment building, and the executive office of the President of the United States, otherwise known as the EOP. Tech Executive One's employer, which is referred to as Internet Company One, had come to access and maintain the dedicated servers for the executive office of the President as part of a sensitive arrangement whereby it provided DNS resolution services to the executive office of the President. Tech Executive One and his associates exploited this arrangement by mining the executive office of the President's DNS traffic and other data for the purpose of gathering derogatory information about Donald Trump. And then even beyond that, the Durham filing gives us a specific date for when this data was taken by the Clinton lawyer and presented to another intelligence agency. That date, just for your reference, was February 9th of 2017, a time when President Trump had already assumed office and was already the President of the United States. And then furthermore, during the meeting, when the Clinton lawyer presented this information to that second intelligence agency, well, he said that the data he was presenting showed that President Trump, as well as some of his associates, were using rare Russian cell phones in the White House. Here's specifically what the Durham filing said in this part. Quote, the indictment further details that on February 9th, 2017, the Clinton campaign lawyer provided an updated set of allegations, including the Russian Bank One data and additional allegations relating to Trump, to a second agency of the U.S. government, otherwise known as Agency 2. The government's evidence at trial will establish that these additional allegations relied in part on the purported DNS traffic that Tech Executive One and others had assembled pertaining to Trump Tower, Donald Trump's New York City apartment, the executive office of the President, and the aforementioned healthcare provider. The defendant further claimed that these lookups demonstrated that Trump and/or his associates were using supposedly rare Russian-made wireless phones in the vicinity of the White House and other locations. And so do you see what's happening here? The Durham documents, they allege that the tech executive collected this data and then handed it over to the Clinton campaign lawyer, who then took that data and presented it to the intelligence agency. And when he presented that data, he told the agency that it showed that Trump, as well as his associates, were using rare Russian cell phones at the White House. And yet, after this filing came to light, the lawyers for that tech executive, they are now saying that this whole data, it was mined not during the Trump presidency, but during the Obama presidency. Which then raises the question, if it was not mined during the Trump presidency, but was instead mined during the Obama presidency, well, how could they possibly make the allegation that Trump and his people were using Russian cell phones at the White House? I guess they will just have to explain that all in court. Furthermore, whether or not these tech executives were in fact spying on Trump during his term in office is not really the main issue at play here. The broader issue, which was not touched on in that either by Hillary Clinton's statement or in that Vanity Fair article, is the allegation by Durham that behind the scenes of the whole Russian bank, Donald Trump collusion narrative, there was a whole large web of actors, all ultimately connected to the Clinton campaign, pushing forward the false allegations. And not just pushing them forward organically either, but Hillary Clinton's lawyer was allegedly billing the Clinton campaign for the hours that he spent doing so. According to these documents, he was billing the Clinton campaign for the hours that he spent with the tech executive in order to push this whole narrative forward. Regardless, as you can see, all this Trump, Russia, Hillary spying stuff is so complicated, and to explain even a small portion of the facts takes about 10 full minutes, which is why I believe that it's so easy for people to just spin the facts or to just brush the entire thing off as a conspiracy theory. And then, of course, furthermore, you have the legacy media complex in this country, which is allowing the entire thing to happen by either not reporting on it or making fun of it. Like how Jimmy Kimmel told his viewers 2 nights ago that only people with, quote, soft oatmeal-like brains would believe the made-up Hillary Clinton spying case. That is just the reality that we're having to deal with when we report on stories like this. It's very similar to what Winston Churchill once famously said, quote, a lie gets halfway around the world before the truth has a chance to get its pants on. Now, of course, to be clear, I'm not saying that either Hillary Clinton or this tech executive's lawyers are lying. That will, of course, ultimately have to be decided by the courts. However, to be frank, I am knee-deep in these documents, and I'm just providing you with the facts and letting you know which facts are in conflict with one another. Again, what will ultimately come of this case, we'll just have to wait and see. Until then, if you'd like to go deeper into these documents, all the documents and all the stories that we went through today, I'll throw all that into the description box below this video for you to check out. And all I ask in return is that you take a super quick moment to smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm.